please welcome U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito. Senator, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you.
Good. Okay, I got some questions about this budget plan, and it's only 2,000 pages long, so we can go through it page by page. But just take a free shot. You voted for it. It passed the House and Senate. The president signed it very quickly. Make the pitch for it. Why should West Virginians say, yeah, that was the right vote?
Well, obviously it's not perfect, but there's a lot in there for West Virginia. Emphasis that I think are strong national security. It tightens up the visa waiver program. It puts a lot of money into drug prevention, into meeting this challenge we have all throughout the state of high incident of heroin and methamphetamine and prescription drug abuse. It also has a lot in there for broadband. My Capito Connect, I've been talking about that a lot. I think it also streamlines programs and eliminates a lot of programs. So if you talk about trying to get rid of wasteful programs, this bill did that. And so I think, it's got highway funding in there. It's got a lot for our airports. I just think that it had more good in it than bad. It has research in there for the nettle and clean coal. It doesn't have the health and pension fix in there for our minors, and I'm very regretful of that. But the fight's still on there. We're still fighting that fight. So I thought in the broader scheme of things, to be able to really set priorities, I voted yes. It also has massive tax cuts in there for middle class and working families. I just thought the good outweighed the bad.
Okay. Here's what the New York Times said. The agreement also showed how easily a fractious legislature can seem functional again when there is agreement to spend more money, adding at least $2 trillion to the debt over the next 20 years, according to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, a nonpartisan group. After some belt-tightening in Washington, including automatic budget cuts imposed in 2013, the spending measure for 2016 provides a notable $66 billion increase in federal outlays above previously agreed-upon limits. So the argument is that, again, we're spending money that we simply do not have.
And I think that's a valid argument, and definitely something that we should be discussing. We had the budget sequestration, but what was happening there is our defense capabilities were really going to take it in the chin. 50% of those cuts were going to go to our defense. Now, in this time of challenged homeland security, and where we're feeling the world is sort of falling apart around us, I think it's an inappropriate decision to remain cutting our strength of our military, because we have to be a leader here. You see this all through the presidential debate on both sides. And so that's one of the reasons that I thought the good here outweighed the bad. I still think there is much, much more we can do on entitlement reform. We've done a very little bit earlier in the year. We need to grab on to Social Security and Medicare and figure out a way to not just sustain these programs, but to make sure that they don't break the bank. So, this is the beginning. This is we've got lots we can do.
Now, I will say this, that at least and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but at least you passed a budget. That's
Absolutely. We passed a balanced budget for the first time in 10 years earlier in the year. The problem here is it's a massive bill, and that's where the cynicism, I think, takes place. And again, rightly so, because as you said in the beginning, it's a 2,000-page bill. So we need the appropriations process. I'm an appropriator. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. We need all of those committees. We passed them out of the Appropriations Committee, but the Democrats blocked them on the floor of the Senate. They didn't put them up and let us debate them. To me, that's an obstructionist of the process. We need to get beyond that, and hopefully we will next year. Harry Reid has said he will let the bills come to the floor for debate next year. Let's hold him to that promise.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is with us on Congress passing a spending plan that totals, it's a total $1.8 trillion package when you add in the spending and also the tax cuts. Now, the tax cuts, they cover a range of things. There's a continuation of the Earned Income Tax Credit, which affects a lot of West Virginians. There's also some business tax cuts that continue, which were about to run out. So those were things you thought were vital, or you supported all of those?
Absolutely, I support those. 160,000 West Virginia households get the Earned Income Tax Credit. I mean, West Virginia is under serious duress here with our high unemployment and what we see happening with the overregulation in the energy field. It also helps with our small businesses. I was contacted by many small businesses who say the permanency of the depreciation is critical to them, because then they can plan. They can plan when they're going to buy new equipment. They can plan when they're going to hire somebody else. It also has in there the two-year extension of mine rescue team training credit. This goes for West Virginia to help West Virginia Coal expense their mine safety equipment. It helps with young families or families trying to send their children to college. It helps young families with the child tax credit. So I think it's across the board. It also takes a big swipe at some of the taxes that are supposed to be funding the Affordable Care Act. So I think all in all, it gives permanency to things that didn't have it before. It helps our military service members. I thought the tax relief was a good package.
Let me ask you about the one provision in there concerning the exportation of crude oil. There's been a ban in effect for something like 40 years. This lifts the ban on the exportation of crude oil, which I would imagine you support. But in exchange, the Democrats say they got extensions on tax credits for wind and solar, and reauthorizing a conservation fund for 3 years. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said, quote, they wanted big oil so much they gave away the store. What's your reaction to that? Clearly, I don't think you would want to continue all those tax credits, or did you?
The cynicism of her remarks just stuns me daily. I mean, I served with her for 14 years, but she needs to – no wonder America's divided when you have that kind of rhetoric just spewing from the leader over on the House side, and it's just very discouraging. But I'll get off that bandwagon.
No, you can go ahead. You can go on. You can do it's a steam release. You can go ahead.
Yeah, early steam release.
Yeah.
But I would say that I do support the export of oil. It's a job creator for those areas that are impacted, and West Virginia has some ancillary businesses that are going to be impacted by this, that it's going to, I think, definitely help. It helps with our security, too. We just, the president's letting Iran now export their oil. Why shouldn't we as Americans be a part of that market? We're the only ones who aren't. So I'm very disappointed in the wind, particularly the wind credit, less so about the solar, because the wind credit is so huge that you hear all of this about how wind is coming to our rescue, and that's why we need to get rid of coal. But when you see how propped up it is, it's discouraging. And so you got to get up to get, you got to give up to get, and I think that was the agreement that was made, and I think the oil exports in the long run will be very, very beneficial to the country and to our region as well.
Let me ask you, Senator, about what your cohort in the Senate said, U.S. Senator Joe Manchin, who voted against it. So Manchin, Democrat, voted against it. You, a Republican, voted for it. He said in a release, he said, by needlessly spending more than $500 billion, this tax extenders bill further harms our financial problems. It is irresponsible, reckless, and unethical to further jeopardize our children's and grandchildren's future by adding to our nation's mounting debt, suggesting that if one supported this, that it was unethical, reckless, and irresponsible.
I don't think it's whatever those terms were.
Irresponsible, reckless, and reckless, and unethical.
Okay. I don't believe that my vote was any of the three of those. I believe that in the tax relief package, when you look at 160,000 West Virginia households that are going to get some relief at the lower end, the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit hits 95,000 West Virginia households. These are people who are on the edge. Another, $1,000, $1,500 to them is extremely meaningful. These are not, the millionaires and billionaires that everybody talks about. These are working families. And small businesses in West Virginia, which is the heart of West Virginia, get some tax relief here. But what I think he fails to, and we're good friends, as everybody knows, Senator Manchin and I get along great, and I have a lot of respect for him, but he fails to note that we've been extending these taxes, this tax relief for years. This is not new tax relief. So even if we didn't make some of these permanent, 2 years ago we did the same thing. So, does that make it better? Maybe not, but it's not a new thing that sprung up. We're still going to have seniors who want to be able to make charitable contributions from their IRAs and not have to be taxed on that. That's good for our nonprofits. There was a story in a local paper here that said that I think charitable giving in West Virginia was down maybe 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Who can give that? A lot of seniors are a little bit more stable in their finances. if they can make sure that their donation out of their IRA is non-taxable, that's going to encourage that. And what do nonprofits do? They help our most vulnerable West Virginians. So I think, is everything in here perfect? No. The employer wage credit for active military. If somebody's employing somebody who's been deployed, give that employer a break to hold that job for that military person. That's a good thing. So, I can argue the other side, and I think very effectively.
I actually believe that the earned income tax credit makes sense because you are, as you said, you're putting money into the pocketbooks of people who are working. And I believe if it's probably, of all anti-poverty programs, it's probably one of the most effective anti-poverty programs. I would just say that Manchin does have a point, though, when he says that we overspend and ultimately this adds to the debt, which continues to grow. So he makes a valid point, does he not? When he says, okay, but now we're spending more money we don't have.
Right. He does make a valid point. I agree. But I still found more good in here. And moving the economy along, letting our small businesses have predictability to maybe hire another person, that's the way. That's not the only way, but that's one of the ways we're going to work our way out of this, besides cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. Hopefully this will result in some more tax relief or tax reform next year. That's one of the strategies I think that was employed to go ahead and make some of these tax benefits permanent. And so, as I said earlier, this is the beginning. But no, absolutely, $17 trillion in debt is way over. We are burdening our children and grandchildren, and we've got to tighten the belt. But this is the lowest discretionary spending we've had in years.
Did you want to defund Planned Parenthood, which did not get included?
Yes, I voted to defund Planned Parenthood more than a few times.
But ultimately, it was funded in this legislation, correct?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. All right, anything else you want to add about this?
No, I mean, some decisions are difficult. The one other thing in here that's in this bill that really has great meaning to me, and you know this because we've talked about it, is it has a large increase in Alzheimer's research funding. We've got to find a cure. Family caregivers are really buckling under the demands and the financial responsibilities and the emotional responsibilities. This is going to be a huge thing as we move through the future when you and I are getting up there. Yeah. Hitting that, and I know, having gone through it with both my parents, it's just very, very difficult.